Hello there, McKnox here, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, let me give you the quick rundown. I am a crochet artist. I do other things. I'm interested in film, literature, but we're not here for that. If you clicked on this video, then today you're interested in making this. This magic elf hood was created by myself over the course of 3 days. Typically, I like to make amigurumi, stuffed animals, but recently I've been delving into making D&D and Ren Fair apparel, so if that's something that you're interested in, then don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share, and leave a comment down below telling me what you'd like to see. And with that being said, let's get started. Okay then, so back to my hood point, we're going to rejoin this yarn right here, and I'm going to slip stitch into that first loop, and I'm going to cut my yarn, and then pull it through. Now, if you fold this piece over, you'll see that we have these loops on the inside. We'll be crocheting into these loops. So I'm going to insert my hook and attach a new color. And then chain 1. Make sure to cut your stitches this round as you go along. These loops here can be a bit hard to find, but just do your best. And I'm just putting a half double crochet into each one of these loops. Alright, I've reached the end of my round. I have 44 stitches. I'm slip stitching into the first half double crochet that I made and chaining 1. I'll take care of these tails later on. For the next 3 rounds, I'm just putting a half double crochet into each stitch. And at the end of your 3rd round, slip stitch to join and chain 1. Okay, I'm going to be sticking with this color. And I'm still going to do a round of half double crochets, but this time I'm decreasing by 2 stitches. So I'll go from 44 to 42. You're going to want to start thinking about how long you want your hat point. If you want a shorter point, on the rounds I don't decrease, you may want to decide to decrease yourself. You could simply not decrease this round. And I'll be color swapping at the end. So I found this color that's a bit similar to the one in this variegated yarn that I'm using. I'm going to attach the color and then go through both loops and chain 1. Then put a half double crochet into every stitch around. I'm using this variegated yarn to start shifting into brighter tones. Okay, I've reached the end of my round again. So I'm just going to slip stitch to join and then chain 1. In this round, I want to do something a little bit different. In this next stitch, I'm going to put a half double crochet. Chain 1 and skip the next chain. Half double crochet into the one after. Chain 1, skip 1, and repeat that to the end of the round. If you find that you're short a stitch to skip here, that's fine. If you have an extra, just skip 2. At the end, slip stitch to join and chain 1. And this time, we're going to make another feather stitch. So yarn over, go into that first stitch that we skipped last round, pull up, yarn over, go into that stitch that our half double crochet is coming out of, yarn over and pull up, yarn over and go into the next skip stitch, yarn over and pull up. Yarn over and pull through all 7 loops and chain 1, and just repeat that to the end of the round. When making our last feather stitch, remember that the last loop that we're going into is the first skip stitch that we started this round with. And then we're changing colors again. And when slip stitching, I'm going into the back loop when making my color swap. This time, I'm taking that navy blue and attaching it to my hook. Chain 1, and for this round, I'm working a half double crochet into that first stitch. Then make a second half double crochet into the same stitch. Skip a stitch, and make 2 half double crochet into the next stitch. This round will be decreasing by 2 again, and to do that, I'm going to push my hook into that first back loop, rotate my hook into that second back loop, pull the yarn through, yarn over, and make your half double crochet, and just do that one more time this round. And at the end, I'm changing colors. I'm swapping back to this medium blue. I'm going to bounce between colors a little bit as I progress, but I want my point to gradually grow brighter and brighter. So I'm going to attach that new yarn and make a single crochet into the back loops of each one of those stitches. At the end of the round, I'm slip stitching into the back loop of that first single crochet and chain 1. Now I'm putting a single crochet into those back loops again, but this round I'm also decreasing by 2 stitches. And at the end of the round, we're swapping colors. Slip stitching into the back loop here and changing back to this blue again. In this round, I'm just putting a half double crochet into the back loops of each one of those stitches. I'm slip stitching to join the top of that first half double crochet and chaining 1. I'm putting a half double crochet into those back loops, but I'm also decreasing by 2 this round. And at the end, I'll be changing colors. We're joining by going into the back loop of that first half double crochet, and this time I'm attaching this teal, chain 1, go into the back loop of that first stitch and make a double crochet, and then do that in every stitch, except that we're again also decreasing by 2. And at the end, I'm slip stitching into the back loop of that first double crochet. And for this round, I'm just doing a double crochet into the back loop of all of those stitches. And at the end, I'm swapping colors. Alright, I've reached the end of my round. I've started adding more piping to my hat and hiding my tails. Remember, it's easier to add your piping now rather than later. If you've been trying your hat on as you progress, you may be a little concerned that your hat is starting to dip backwards. But don't forget, we'll be adding more rounds to our hood later. And with that being said, I'm switching colors back to this shiny black, but we're only going through the front loop of our stitch this time. Attach your yarn and chain 1. And for this round, all I'm doing is putting a half double crochet into those front loops. When I get to the end, I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that first half double crochet, cut my yarn and pull it through. I'm going to hide my yarn tails and use them to make sure that the stitches where my rounds are joined are pulled tightly together. Sometimes you have this weird sort of spacing where the round meets, but you can use your yarn tails to help pull them together. So for this round, I'll be attaching my hook into the back loops from that last round, and I'll be using a lighter color. Attach your yarn and chain 1. Then put a half double crochet into every stitch around. And I'll be color swapping at the end and chain 1. This round, I'm putting a single crochet into every stitch, but I'm also decreasing by 2 this round. Slip stitch to join at the end and chain 1. For the next round, I'm starting by putting a single crochet into that first stitch, and then a half double crochet into the next one, and the one after that is also a half double crochet, and followed by a single crochet. So I'm just repeating those 4 same stitches: single crochet, 2 half double crochet, and a single crochet. Slip to join at the end and chain 1. For this round, I'm putting a single crochet into the top of those 2 half double crochets from the last round. Then a half double crochet into the next 2 single crochets from the last round, and just repeat that. Make sure you're putting half double crochets into single crochets and single crochets into half doubles. When you get to the end, we're changing colors. And now I'm reattaching this light blue, chain 1, and I'm putting a half double crochet into every stitch, but I'm also decreasing by 2 this round. I'm at the end of the round and I have 30 stitches left. Pushing my hook into that first stitch, I'm changing to the sparkling teal that I used for this piping up here before. Join and chain 1. For this round, I'm just putting a single crochet into every stitch. As you can see, I'm transitioning to lighter colors, but still keeping those mid-tones for now. Slip to join at the end and chain 1. The next round is just putting a single crochet into every stitch. Slip into the back loop of that first single crochet and swap colors. And I'm changing to this blue again. Chain 1. Make a single crochet into the back loop of each stitch. In this round, I'm chaining 3 instead of 1. Yarn over and go back into that same stitch and make a double crochet. Then chain 1. Skip your next stitch, make a double crochet in the one after it, and put another double crochet into that same stitch. Chain 1 and skip the next one. And you're just going to repeat those steps all the way around. I know it looks like we're increasing our stitch count now, but this is actually just a decorative part of the hat. At the end, slip stitch in the top of the chain 3 that we made, cut your yarn and pull it through. Folding down that piece I made, I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop of one of these stitches right here that I skipped, and attach my teal yarn, which I'll use to transition into this shiny variegated one that I have. So attach and pull the yarn through, chain 1, go back into that same loop that I'm coming out of, and make a half double crochet. Then put another half double crochet into that same loop. Then find my next skip stitch, go into that back loop, and make 2 half double crochet. And repeat this for every skip stitch, working only into the back loops of those stitches. And at the end, I'm swapping to that variegated yarn. I'm going to attach it to my hook and chain 1. Now, instead of working into the tops of my half double crochets, I'm going to put stitches into the spaces between them. So I'm going to put 2 half double crochet into the sort of gap between these pairings from the last round. Slip to join at the end of the round and chain 1. For the next 5 rounds, I'm just going to do the same thing as I did in the last round. Make 2 half double crochet into that space between stitches. This is another spot where if you want a shorter point, you could just make fewer rounds. And at the end of the 5th round, I'll be changing colors. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the back loop of that first half double crochet, attach my teal yarn, and chain 1. In this round, we're decreasing by 2. So I'll go from 30 stitches to 28. And I'm going to start setting up for another feather stitch. So make a half double crochet, then chain 1 and skip 1. And remember, we're going into these back loops. And you're decreasing over 2 stitches rather than skipping 2 stitches this round. So just make 2 half double crochet decreases as you go along. At the end, slip to join and chain 1. So, just like we did previously, we start by yarning over and going into the back loop of that stitch that we skipped. Yarn over and come up, yarn over, go into the stitch where our half double crochet is coming out of, yarn over and come up, yarn over and go into the next back loop of the stitch that we skipped, yarn over and come up, yarn over and pull through all 7 loops, and then chain 1. And you start your next feather stitch in that same loop that we just came out of. At the end, push your hook into the top of your first stitch and we're changing colors again. And this time it's to a lighter teal. Chain 1 and tighten my strands. For this round, I'm making another feather stitch. So we start by making a half double crochet into that first space, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat those steps to the end of the round. Slip to join and chain 1. This next round, we're doing another feather stitch, except you're going through both loops of your stitches this time. So yarn over and go into that first stitch that we skipped, yarn over and pull up, yarn over and go into the base of that half double crochet, yarn over and pull up, yarn over and go into that next skip stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. Chain 1, and then start your feather stitch in the same stitch that we're coming out of. And we're changing colors again. For this round, I'm now introducing white. I want my colors to start getting brighter to coincide with the moon theme. And we're going to be making another round of feather stitches. Except this time, when we do our half double crochet in chains, we're decreasing by 2 stitches this round. So start with that half double crochet, chain 1, and skip 1, and make 2 half double crochet decreases this round. Slip to join at the end and chain 1. Alright, that's finished. You're making the feather stitches the same way you did the last 2 times, and make sure that you're chaining after every feather stitch. And at the end, we're changing colors. I'm slip stitching into the back loop of that first stitch, and I'm attaching this tinsel silver and chain 1, and I'm just making a single crochet into the back of each stitch around. Slip to join at the end and chain 1. For this round, I'm just putting a double crochet into each stitch. I have 26 stitches at this point. If you're looking to make your point shorter, this is a good round to decrease. Slip to join at the end and chain 1. For our next round, single crochet into every stitch, but I'm decreasing from 26 to 24 this round, and I'm doing a color swap at the end, so don't join. Going into the back loop of my first stitch, I'm joining with the sparkly white I have, then chain 1. I'm going to go into that first stitch and make a half double crochet. Go back in and make another half double crochet. Skip 1 stitch and put 2 half double crochet into the next one, and repeat that all the way around. At the end of the round, I'm changing colors. Slip stitching into both loops of that first half double crochet, I'm attaching a regular white. Then chain 1, and I'm just going to repeat the last round. Skip past these 2 half double crochet and put 2 half double crochet into that space between pairs. And repeat that to the end of the round. So the great news here is that we're getting really close to the end of our hat point. I'm going to slip stitch into the first half double crochet and attach this pale teal again. Chain 1, and for this round, I'm just putting a half double crochet into each stitch, but we're decreasing by 2 this round, and at the end, I'm changing colors. Alright, taking my sparkly teal, I'm attaching it to my hook and chaining 1, and I'm just putting a half double crochet into every stitch. And at the end of the round, I'll be swapping colors. So, to join at the end here, I'll be going into the back loop of my first stitch and attaching that silver again. Chain 1. For this round, just put a single crochet into every back loop. Slip to join at the end. Alright, chain 1. For this round, put a half double crochet into each stitch, but we're decreasing from 22 to 20 stitches. Now, if you don't have a number divisible by 5, then take this next round to get it to that point, whether you have to decrease or increase slightly. However, you can also decide to use a different stitch for the next couple of rounds. And with that being said, I'm changing colors at the end. Going into the back loop of that first stitch, I'm attaching that sparkly white again, then chain 1. And for this round, we're just putting a single crochet into every back loop. Join at the end and chain 1. For this round, I'm going to make something called the shell stitch. And you make this stitch in multiples of 5. You start by going into that first stitch and make a single crochet. Skip 2 stitches and make 5 double crochet into the stitch after. Skip another 2 stitches and make a single crochet in the one after. And just repeat those same steps. Skip 2 stitches again, go into that third and make 5 double crochet. Skip another 2 stitches and make a single crochet in the one after. I will have a total of 4 shell stitches. Now what we're going to do is a reverse shell stitch. So start by chaining 1, go into that single crochet you made from the last round and make 5 double crochet. Now put a single crochet into the middle of that shell stitch. Skip 2 and make 5 double crochet into that next single crochet from our last round. Skip over those 2 double crochet and put a single crochet into the top of that shell stitch. Continue this until you get to the end of the round. Look for that first chain we made, skip it, and slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet. Start the next round with a chain 1. And I'm just going to put a single crochet into every stitch. You should have 20 stitches. I know it can be a bit hard to tell. Count as you go and correct the number if need be. And at the end, we'll be swapping colors. This is the round you probably want to start crocheting around your yarn tails because it's going to get difficult to start hiding them. And for this round, I'm putting a half double crochet into each stitch, but I'll also be decreasing by 2. And so I'll have a total of 18 stitches. Slip to join. For this round, chain 1 and put a half double crochet into each stitch. At the end of the round, I'm switching colors. I promise we're almost done with the hat point. For this round, I'm swapping to silver. We only have 2 more color changes to finish this part of the hat. I'm attaching only into my back loop this round and chaining 1. I'll be crocheting around that silver yarn tail as I work. I'm doing a round of single crochet, but I'm also decreasing by 2 this round. So I'm going from 18 to 16 stitches. I'll be slip stitching to join at the end and hide that other tail. Now chain 1, and then all you're going to do is make a half double crochet into each stitch. At the end of this round, I'm changing colors. And for this round, I'm swapping to white. Chain 1 and start crocheting around that yarn tail again. Going into the back loops, I'm making a half double crochet. And I'm decreasing from 16 to 14. I know it's getting a little difficult to work into those stitches, but we're almost done. Make sure to hide your yarn tails. Slip stitch to join, chain 1, and put a half double crochet into every stitch. And we're decreasing from 14 to 12. Slip stitch to join. We're chaining 1, and for this round, we're going into the back stitches and make a half double crochet. But I'm also decreasing, going from 12 to 10 stitches. And at the end, we'll be making our final color swap. And for this last color, I'm using this light teal. Attach your yarn and chain 1. And put a half double crochet into the back loop of every stitch. I've joined my round and I've chained 1 In this round, I'm decreasing from 10 to 8 stitches. Slip to join at the end. Chain 1 and put a half double crochet into those 8 stitches. Slip to join. Chain 1. In this round, I'm decreasing from 8 to 6. Slip to join. Chain 1, and I'm just going to put a half double crochet into each stitch. Slip to join at the end. And for this last round, you're going to decrease from 6 to 4. If you find this too difficult, you can just do one more round of half double crochet. Either way, when you're finished, fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. Alright, so to finish my point, I'm just going to attach that yarn tail to my needle, and I'm going to start pushing it into the front loop of these 4 stitches. These will pull these stitches close together, and when you're done, push it into the point and hide your tail. So here it is. Here's our hat so far. It's been a lot of work, I know, but we're almost done. We're going to start expanding on the hood next, and then we're going to decorate and weight it. You could take a break and go back and do some more piping on your hat if you so desire. I've already shown you a little bit of how to do the piping. Alright, let's move on. To begin expanding on our hood, I'm going to lay it down like this, and start by attaching my soft black into a stitch here in the back. It doesn't really matter where, and I'll be crocheting on the outside of my hood. Start by chaining 1 and put a single crochet into every stitch. Now, don't worry about your stitch count. We're just trying to refine this edge a little bit. Pause when you get to the corner of your hood where we first started making our hat. Okay, I'm coming up on my corner here. I'm going to single crochet until I get to this point, and then make a single crochet into that corner. Chain 1 and put a single crochet into that same stitch. Then just single crochet along the edge until you get to the other corner. And at the other corner, you're doing the same thing. Put in a single crochet, chain 1 and put another single crochet into the same stitch. Then continue your single crochets until you get to the end of your round. And I'll be changing colors. Skip that chain 1, and now I'm attaching that variegated yarn I used way back near the beginning. I'm going to start slowly expanding my hood. So for this next round, I'll be doing that half double crochet and slip stitch pairing again. And I'll be increasing by 4 this round. So I'm starting with a slip stitch in that first stitch. Then, in the same spot, make a half double crochet. And this is one of our 4 increases this round. Slip stitch into the next one, and then half double crochet into the one after. And continue alternating between these 2 stitches. But, as you work, you just want to increase by 4 times all around like I just showed you. Space them out along your hood. When we get to the corner of our hood, that does not count as part of our increases. Okay, so I'm at my corner. So I'm starting with a slip stitch in that first stitch, chain 1, then in the same spot, make a half double crochet. And continue as normal until I get to the next corner and do the same thing. And remember, you're still increasing by 4 this round. We're slipping to join at the end. Back at the beginning of my round, chain 1. Our next stitch is a slip stitch, so put a half double crochet into that stitch, and then followed by a slip stitch into the one after. And we are not increasing this round. When you get to that corner, you're going to do the same thing that you did the last time. Then continue on to the next corner and do the same thing. And when I get back around to the end, I'll be swapping colors. I'm going into the back loop of that first stitch that I made and attaching a new yarn. Pull it through and chain 1. Now you're going to want 2 stitch markers. We're going to start with single crochets, but as we go along, we're going to change stitches. and these markers will show us where those changes will be made. I want the front half of my hood to grow more than the back half. For now though, start by putting single crochets into the back of those stitches. When I get to about this point, about where I started making those leaves, I'm going to make a single crochet, but then I'm going to pull out my hook and place my stitch marker. These stitch markers tell us where we started changing our stitches. And I'm going to line it up and put my stitch marker into the other side. Reinsert my hook, and in the next stitch, I'm putting 2 half double crochets. We'll be increasing this round just a little bit as well. Continue making half double crochets until you get to your corner. In the first stitch of my corner, I'm starting with a half double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 1 and put a half double crochet into that same space. Then continue to my other corner and just do the same thing. Continue making half double crochets until I get to that row that I started my leaves on the other side of my hood. And here I place my stitch marker into what will be my last half double crochet. And remember, we're putting 2 half double crochet into this stitch. Continue on making single crochet until the end of the round. Going into the back loop of that first stitch, I'm attaching a new color. This round can be a little tricky because we'll be making feather stitches. Start by chaining 1, and you're just going to put a single crochet into every stitch until you get to that first stitch marker. When we get there, put a half double crochet into the back loop of that stitch after your marker, chain 1 and then skip 1, half double crochet into the next stitch. But when you get to this corner, no matter what, put a half double crochet into this corner. If you don't have an even number of stitches like me, this is a good way to get around that. So then chain 1 and put a half double crochet into that corner again. Keep making your half double crochet chain 1 pairings until you get to that second stitch marker. You want your last half double crochet right before that marker. Skip an extra stitch if you have to. Then start putting single crochets into the rest of your stitches this round. Slip to join. Chain 1, and we're going to start by putting a single crochet into every stitch. When you get to that first half double crochet, I'm going to put a single crochet increase into the stitch just before that marker. Then put a single crochet into the marker itself. And now we're making the feather stitches. So start by yarning over and go into that skip stitch. Yarn over, go into the base of that half double crochet. Yarn over, go into the next skip stitch. Yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. And then chain 1. It's the same as the other feather stitches that we've made. Yarn over and go into that same stitch that we finished our first one. Yarn over and go into the base of that next half double crochet. And continue on making your feather stitches until you get to your corner. I finished my last stitch right before my corner, and we're not going to do anything really different, except I'm yarning over and going into that chain space instead of into that skip stitch, and make my feather stitch as I normally do. Go into that half double crochet, and then into that next chain space, and just continue making my feather stitches. And when you get to the other corner, just do the same thing. When you reach your stitch marker, make another single crochet increase. Continue making single crochets until the end of the round. Okay, I'm at the end here and I'm switching colors, but I'm swapping to the front loop. Chain 1. For this round, I'm starting by putting a single crochet into that first front loop. Go into the next front loop and make a half double crochet, followed by a double crochet into the next 3 front loops. Go into the next front loop and make a half double crochet, followed by a single crochet. So what's going on here is that these back loops will be the round that I'll be putting my drawstring in later. The round that I'm working in right now is more for decorative and to kind of hide that drawstring. So with that being said, continue working on those front loops. A single crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet in the one after, a double crochet into the next 3, then another half double crochet, and a single crochet. And just repeat those steps all around. You don't need to increase this round because we'll be fastening off at the end. And here at my corner, I can see that I have the 5 stitches that I need to continue this pattern normally. You should have an easy rounded corner like I do, but if you don't, just do the best you can. If you have to say put 2 double crochets into the same stitch, that's perfectly fine. It's really not going to affect it much. And just continue on making those 5 stitches all the way back to the start. Slip stitch to join and fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. Now I'm just going to push my hook into one of these back loops and attach a new yarn. Okay, so now we're going to make the round where we insert our drawstring. Chain 1. For this round, we're starting off with a half double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and make another half double crochet. We won't be doing this all the way around our hood. We're stopping at our stitch marker. For now, continue until that point. I'm going to put one more chain 1 and half double crochet just past my stitch marker. You don't have to end exactly in the same spot as I do, but somewhere close to your marker. And then from here, I'm going to put half double crochet into the next 5 stitches. And then start making double crochets into those loops instead. Your number may differ from mine, but write it down for when you get to the other side. Pause when you get to the corner here where you have this cluster, and for this part, I'm going to start by putting 2 double crochet into that first stitch. The next one is the point of my corner. Put 2 double crochet into that point, then chain 2, and put 2 more double crochet into that same stitch. Then 2 double crochet into your next one. And what this does is it starts to make our corners just a little more squarish. Continue making double crochets until you get to your other corner. And just do the same thing as I showed you here. Now remember, for me, I'm only doing 6 double crochets from this point onward, followed by 5 half double crochets. Your numbers may be different from mine, and I hope they wrote them down. And once you finish with those stitches, we're going to be making those half double crochet chain 1 pairings once more. Look at the other side of your hood and try to line these up. And then just continue on. Half double crochet, chain 1, skip 1. Slip stitch to join and fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. So we're getting really close to the end of our hood now. We'll be threading our tie through these chain spaces that we made from this round. And I'm actually going to use 2 colors this round, swapping from one to the next. You can keep using a single color if you want. I want to start adding my color a little further up my hood, so I'm going to look at where my chain space started from the last round, and I'm going to count over 12 stitches and move my stitch marker. And I will do that on both sides. These markers are kind of a guidepost that let us know when to start paying attention to the alterations that we'll be making, and you'll understand what I mean very soon. So I'm going to attach that color, and I'm going to chain 1, and start by making a half double crochet into that same stitch. Then make a half double crochet into the next 2. From here, we're single crocheting until we get to our chain spaces. Okay, so now I've reached my chain space. I'm not going to crochet into these stitches. Rather, I'm going to crochet into these chain spaces. So make 2 single crochet into every chain space and skip right over those half double crochets. This will help widen the chain spaces slightly while strengthening this previous round as well. Okay, so I've reached the end of my chain spaces. Now I know that for me, I'm going to put a single crochet into the next 9 stitches. And from there, I'll put a half double crochet into the next 3. And halfway through my half double crochet, I'll be switching to a brighter color. And continue making half double crochet into the next 5 stitches. Once I've made those 5, I'm going to start making double crochet. And for me, I have 5 double crochet before this corner. Count how many you have and write them down. So when you do your other corner, you can try and make them equally. You might find that you have 1 stitch too many or 1 stitch too less. That's fine. You can either leave it or you can do a decrease. But you want to keep track of this so that one side of your hood doesn't look vastly different from the other side. And with that being said, now we're at this corner again. And I'm going to go into this chain space and I'm going to make 2 double crochet and then chain 2. Go back into that chain space and make another 2 double crochet. Then continue making double crochets until we get to our other corner. And in that corner, put 2 double crochets into that chain space. Chain 2 and put another 2 double crochet into that same space. Then, whatever many you had when you did your other side, make the same amount of double crochets again. For me, it was 5 double crochet. Follow this up by half double crocheting until you get back to where you first attached your yarn. Fasten off and hide your tails. I'm going to pause here and make my tie and make sure that I like its placement. And when it comes to making the tie, I have all these different styles of yarn. Yarn made of a stiffer material is usually best when making ties, but it really doesn't matter that much. I'll be picking 2 colors to make a bigger tie. I'm taking those 2 strands of yarn and looping them around my hook. I'm going to attach them, and then I'm just going to start chaining. As you get further along in your chain, start comparing it to your hood to get an idea of about how long you'd like to make it. After I get so far, I take the 2 yarn tails from that one end and insert them into my needle. Then, using my needle, I'm going to start going in and out of these spaces and pulling that tie through. And when I get to a certain point and I think I like the length of one side of the tie, I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to take my hook and I'm just going to start chaining again. And as I chain, I'm going to keep comparing it to the other side of my tie. Check your 2 lengths against each other until you're satisfied, and once you're done, fasten off. So after I did that, using my needle, I drew the 2 drawstrings through this large bead. You can knot or tie the ends if you want, but I like being able to pull this up and down to help keep the hood a little more secure. And remember, you don't have to add this cord. You can remove it without actually affecting anything. But if you do that, I would advise adding more weight to the front of your hood. Alright, so now we're going to finish this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this corner here, and I have this really fluffy white yarn. And I'm going to start by chaining 1. And I'm going to be crocheting around this yarn tail as I work. I'll snip it short later. For this round, I'm just putting a half double crochet into each stitch until it gets to the other edge. Now you can continue to build your hood, you can put increases, decreases, all kinds of different things. but I'm pretty satisfied with my hood. Originally, I only added one row of this yarn, but I did go back and do another row of single crochet. Well, there it is, it's done. I hope you're proud of yourself. Now's the really fun part. We get to start decorating it. We're going to add tassels and adornments here, and some decorations here also. And after that, we also have to make the ears. So now this is the point that you start pulling out all of your random craft supplies that you've stashed away. Some that you've stashed away for years and you don't even remember having. And do not tell me you don't have any. If you made this far, you have stuff like this. So I just pulled out a bunch of stuff. Pendants, bells, miniature bells, beads, more beads, key charms, floss, like just whatever I had. I don't end up using most of this though, but I'll show you how I make the tassels and the pom-pom on the tip of the hood. But how you decorate this is really going to be mostly up to you. Alright, so when it comes to making the pom-pom, you want to start by cutting a long strand of your chosen color, thread it onto a needle, and then just set it aside. Then take that yarn and start looping it over all 4 of your fingers. Do this several times. The more times you loop it over your fingers, the bigger your pom-pom will be. I want a really big one. Once I've done that, I'm going to cut my yarn, then pick up that needle with that strand, and I'm going to push that needle and yarn between my fingers here. Grab those 2 ends together, then gently slip those loops off of my fingers. Be very careful when you do this. This next part can be done more easily if you just set the loops down. Then take your 2 ends and knot them very tightly. Make sure that they're centered around those loops. Then cross your ends around to the other side and knot them again. Do not get your loops caught. Then double knot your strands. Now, taking my needle, I'm going to push it up through the center of that knot, pulling that yarn tail with me. This will help to secure it. Do this a few times. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to hold these 2 ends together in one hand, and I'm going to start cutting into the middle of these loops. Make sure that you get all of them. Trim the edges as you see fit so they're all about the same size. Now, you can leave the pom-pom the way it is, but you can also brush the yarn out to make it fluffier, or even pick apart the threads of these ends. For me, I like the way it is, so I'm just going to trim up the edges here, and then I'm going to attach it to my hood. I'm going to start by pushing my needle into the center of that tip, and then come out 1 stitch over. Then push my needle back up into the middle of that knot. Make sure not to get those ends caught. Pull it tight, then go back down, and then attach your other yarn end to your needle and just do the same thing. Once you're done with that, bring the tails out together, knot and hide your tails inside your hood. Now, when it comes to the tassels, all I did was I took a bunch of strands of colors that I've used in this hood, and I cut them to about the same length. And I would advise using really long strands for this, because you can always cut them down to size. I split them into 2 groups, getting some of each color in each group. I have 12 strands for each tassel, but that will be doubled to 24 in a minute. With one group in hand, we're not going to be threading these ends through. Rather, we're going to make a loop with the middle of these strands, and I'm going to push that up and through that chain space in the corner of my hood. But I'm not going to pull those loops all the way through. I'm going to make those loops all about the same size. Then I'm going to grab both sides of my strands, and I'm going to pull them through those loops to make a knot. Then pushing up slowly, I'm going to tighten that knot. And do the same for the other side. When you're done, give each strand a very sharp tug to help tighten those knots. Alright, so after that, I checked both of my sides and trimmed my tassels to about the same length. For me, I want to make another knot further down my tassels. so I find my spot, I wrap the strands around my fingers, and then just make another knot. Make sure all of your strands come through. And when you've done that, pull on each one of those strands tightly like you did with the first knot. And do the same for the other side. From this point, I started decorating my tassels. I started adding twine, floss, keychains, different types of yarns. That could be the really fun part of this hood, the decorating it after it's finished. The options are almost limitless and can bring a lot of character to your hood. But remember, you want to add weight to the front of your hood, so using a thicker yarn for the tassels may help. I end up also adding long strands of beads to my hood that made a really big difference. And when it came to decorating the hat band, I just added some twine and just a couple strands of yarn, but also this fake golden flower that I had. I didn't glue it on because I didn't want to ruin my project, so rather it was sewn on. Alright, so with all of that being said, let's move on to the ears. And to make the ears, you start off with a magic circle of 4 single crochet. Now we're going to increase to 6 stitches. So put 2 single crochet into that first stitch, a single crochet into the next, then do another increase, and then with a single crochet. This round, we're increasing from 6 to 8. So make a single crochet in the first 2 stitches, then an increase, 2 single crochet, an increase in the last stitch. Now we're increasing from 8 to 10. So 3 single crochet and an increase, 3 single crochet, another increase. For the next round, we're going to put a single crochet into all 10 stitches. Increasing from 10 to 12, make 4 single crochet, then an increase, another 4 single crochet, and end with an increase. The next round, we're putting a single crochet into every one of those 12 stitches. Make sure that you have 12. Now this is a point if you want to make your ears a little bit longer, you can actually start adding a few more rows here. And once I've finished that round, I'm increasing from 12 to 15. Start with 3 single crochet, then make an increase. And repeat that 2 more times. For the next 2 rounds, just put a single crochet into each stitch. So 30 single crochet total. Make sure that you have 15 stitches at the end of each round. Alright, so now we're increasing from 15 to 18. So make 4 single crochet, then increase. 4 single crochet, increase. And do that 1 more time. For the next 2 rounds, put a single crochet into every stitch. Make sure you have 18 stitches at the end of each round. In this round, I'm increasing from 18 to 21. So make 5 single crochet and then increase. Do that a total of 3 times to have 21 stitches. For the next 2 rounds, you're just putting a single crochet into every stitch. Make sure you have 21 stitches. Alright, so now we're decreasing from 21 to 18. I'm starting with an invisible decrease and then making 5 single crochet. You can use a regular decrease, but I prefer the invisible because it's almost seamless. For our last round, we're decreasing from 18 to 16. So I'm going to make 7 single crochet, then a decrease. And do that 1 more time. When you're done, fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. Alright, so if you don't want to make the curvature of your ear, you can just skip this part. This is just to give the ears a little more depth. And what I'm going to do is cut a long strand of yarn from the color that I used to make the ear. Then I'm going to thread it onto my needle. Flatten your ear where you fastened off right here. and I'm inserting my finger into this corner to kind of give guidance and shape to what will be my earlobe. Now I'm going to take my needle and go through both stitches on the edge of my ear right beside that space. Then I'm going to weave through the next pair of stitches. Make sure that you leave a long tail. And we're not going to be sewing all the way up the side. I'm going to stop there, and instead I'm going to push my needle into the body of my ear and out and up into a stitch about here. And again, I'm inserting my finger as a sort of guide. I want to use my needle and thread to pull these stitches together. So I'm going to insert my needle into this stitch, and then curve down to the one below it and insert my needle coming out right here. And then give the yarn a good tug. Come up into the next stitch and tug it again. Be careful not to pull the other end of your strand through. And you can see as it works, I start joining my stitches in a curving pattern using my fingertip as a guide. And there we go, that's the earlobe finished. And just so you know, when we sew the ears on, we're not going to be sewing them flat because we want to keep this curve right here. And I'm actually going to be adding a little bit of stuffing to this pocket to help it keep shape. You don't have to stuff them if you don't want to. I kind of thought about it last moment. Alright, so moving on, I want this to curve slightly inwards. So I'm going to maneuver my needle to the other side of the ear, right about here. I'm not going to tug that yarn. I'm going to come out where I want the base of that curve to be. And then I'm going to come up one stitch, and then come back down. Go over and back up one, and give it a little tug. You don't have to be real precise when you do this, it just adds a little more dimension to your ear. I start going up, and instead of back down into the same stitch, I start going over one. When I get to my ear point about here, I just skip a couple of these stitches and cross over to the other side. And just continue working in the same looping method. Once I get to my earlobe, I'm just going to push that needle into the body again and come out with the other tail end. Knot and hide them inside your ear. Now that you've finished your ear, you want to try your hat on and decide where you want to place it. I end up sticking my sewing needle into the stitch I think is about the center of where I'd place my ear. But before I place my ear, I'm going to attach this earring that I made first. And what I'm going to do is push it into the stitch of my earlobe. Then, after inserting it, I end up grabbing a pair of pliers to tighten and twist the metal of that earring so it won't easily fall out of the ear. You may have a better way of doing this than me. You could try glue, but that can be very, very messy. Okay, so after that, I'm ready to sew on my ear. I attach my needle to that yarn tail. And looking at it, I want my ear to curve just a little bit. Remember, we're not sewing the whole ear flat. I'm going to insert my needle and start to very carefully start to sew that ear to my hood. Make sure that you're only going through one side of your hood. And as I'm sewing, I'm also going to take the chance to pinch the inside of my ear here so that this curves a little bit more. And as I'm coming around the lobe again, start stuffing it a little bit. You really don't need much. Just hide the yarn tail on the inside of your hat. Make your second ear and sew it on the same way. Phew! There! Congratulations if you made this far. This has been my biggest project yet, and I'm not sure that I'm going to make another hood quite like this one. I do have other ideas in the works, and if you want to see more, then why don't you hit like, subscribe, and share, and leave a comment down below telling me what else you'd like to see. And while you're at it, why don't you go and check out some of my other videos. I think you might find this one in particular very interesting. And with that being said, this has been McKnox. I'll see you soon.